What's up, vapors? Thanks for checking out Daily Vape TV. My name is Nick, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Wismec Motiv Pod. Alright guys, so today we've got a brand new product from our friends over at Wismec. This time it is a refillable pod system. Yes, you heard me right, a refillable pod system, very much similar to the original Motiv, which is kind of along the same design as far as the aesthetics of it. However, this one, you can actually take this whole upper piece and it comes right out just like that. This is your tank and actual atomizer, and it's the mouthpiece as well. So really kind of cool looking design. Very convenient for anyone that's on the go and wants a great little pocket stealth setup. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of cool features with this one here, which we'll get into in a little bit. But before we get into it, I do have to state my intent by saying that I did receive this product for free from the manufacturer for the purpose of doing this review. However, it has no monetary value to me, which means my opinions on it will remain honest and unbiased, of course, as always. But with that, I would like to give a huge shout out and thank you to the people over at Wismec for sending this my way for the purpose of taking a look at it for you guys out there. So thank you guys over at Wismec. I really do appreciate it. So before we go down to the close-up view, let's get some of the nitty-gritty details out of the way. First and foremost, the color options. This one is available in brushed stainless, brushed gunmetal, black, white, and rainbow, which is pretty cool. Obviously, they sent me the black version, as you can see here, and I like it. It's nice and stealthy, and you know, pretty much all of my mods are either black or stainless. So there you go. I got the black version. This one is available pretty much everywhere online that I've seen for $29.99, which is definitely a good deal for a nice little starter kit like this. I did find it for $19.99 on a particular website, but they were all sold out. I will link that one down there in the description below as well, just in case they come back in stock for that same price point. But be on the lookout for that one. And yeah, of course, links are all down there in the description if you guys want to pick one of these up for yourself. And the replacement coils on these ones here are going to cost you about $3.99. So pretty much the average price of a coil, so not too bad there as well. So anyways, without further ado, let's dive down to the close-up view and take a better look at this thing. Alright guys, so as you can see here, we have our Wismec Motiv Pod in its original box. So let's quickly take a look around the packaging and then we'll talk about what's inside. So first and foremost, the Motiv Pod and Wismec logos are all going to be in this nice silver emboss, which is really nice. The box art looks really nice and shiny and classy and very simple. You have a picture of the device on there. We have Motiv logos on either side, and we have Wismec logos on the top and bottom. So pretty simple stuff there. On the back, you have what is included in the box, a few little main features, and some legal information as well. You guys should be used to this by now. It's pretty basic, but let's take a look at what's underneath the hood here. We have our Motiv Pod itself, and of course they sent me the black one. It's going to be pretty difficult to show up on camera, but hey, we'll work through it as best as we can here. Hopefully the camera decides to focus on it any day now. There we go. So here is the Motiv itself, and we'll just put that aside for right now. We'll talk about that in just a second here, but let's dig into the goodies below. We have another pod, so they send you an additional pod included in the box, and a USB cable. And that's pretty much it, other than the very basic start guide, whatever, user manual. Some pictures, a lot of words. You know, it's pretty easy to set this thing up. I don't even think they really need this out. They probably do that for legal purposes, but let's go ahead and take a look at the device itself. Alright guys, so here is the Motiv Pod system itself. So we're just going to take a quick look from top to bottom here and go over some of the main features. First and foremost, the top piece here is actually the entire pod. If we can get that part out, there we go. So that's actually pretty much half the unit right there, which is the actual pod itself. So you have the 4 mil capacity tank right there with the coil that's inside, and the included drip tip. Unfortunately, this tip is non-removable. There's nothing I can see to actually get this tip out, which is a little bit annoying because it's not the most comfortable tip in my opinion. Just kind of has that kind of cheap plasticky kind of feeling as far as I'm concerned. So with that, you have your built-in coil and everything in this little system here, which is kind of nice. On the side, you have the filling port, So we'll just crack that open. So that is how you fill this thing. So it's not a closed system like most other pod systems, but it is a refillable pod system. I guess it's kind of like a refillable all-in-one device with replaceable pods. So something a little bit different. You can see the metal contacts on the bottom there. Which line up to these here, and it is universal, so no matter which way you install this pod, it is pretty easy, and it will actually make a connection. So you can just slide your pod in just like that. That's how you install it. You have the air slots right up at the top here. Hopefully you guys can see that because they are very, very small. And that is also matched on the other side here. On the back, we have our USB port for charging. And you have a tiny little LED right there as well. So there you go. You have a nice big button right here. Very clicky, very responsive. I have had zero issues with that so far, which is great. All right, so let's quickly go over the functions of this device. First and foremost, since our device is currently off, we can set the LED color by holding down the fire button for 3 seconds. Once you see that color pop up there, that means we can choose our color that we want by clicking the button and rotating around the 7 different options, or you can choose to have it off like that. Personally, I like to have it on just to show me the battery life. So once you're happy with the color, just leave it for a few seconds. When it's off, it's locked in. So when we click the button 5 times to turn it on, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it'll flash that color, which means that's locked in. And there you go. Since it's staying lit right here, this is the battery indication. It shows up every time you puff on this thing. So since it stayed lit for 3 seconds there, it means it's between 100 and 60% charge. From 59 to 30%, it slowly flashes. From 29 to 10%, it moderately flashes. And from 9% to 0, it flashes very frequently. So keep an eye on that. And it's very similar to the Joyetech AIO, which I'm sure a lot of you out there are pretty familiar with. But yeah, when it comes to that, very, very similar functions. And obviously there's only one button on it, so that is also the fire button. You can hear it firing up just like that. The only other thing you really have to know about this device is that it has a 2200 milliamp hour built-in battery, which is non-user replaceable. There's no way to actually change out the battery on this thing. But then again, it is a very simple starter kit, so I don't really see the point in having one anyways. But other than that, yeah, that's really all I can tell you guys. Unfortunately, I don't see anywhere the specs as far as the coil resistance or the power output. I believe it's a 5-volt output. Similar, you know, just like every other kind of, you know, similar all-in-one system. It puts the full power of the battery to the coil. So there you go. Anyways, let's go back to the main screen, have a quick vape on this thing, and we'll talk about it some more. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the close-up section of the video. Now let's talk about my personal thoughts about this device, some pros, some cons, and whether or not it's worth purchasing. Starting off today with the pros, my first pro is that it's simple, easy to use, and great for beginners. Now, myself, I really like these simple little starter kits, especially as an employee of a vape shop. For someone to come into my shop, I can set them up with one of these things here and teach them how to use it all within a matter of maybe 10 minutes, and that includes the startup time. So you just fill the tank with juice, you know, pop it together, turn it on, show them the LED indicator and all that stuff, and they're off and vaping in a matter of minutes rather than, you know, sitting there waiting half an hour going over the entire user manual and explaining every little detail about power and wattage and Ohm's law and all that stuff. It's very simple for someone to just kind of pick this thing up and they're off and vaping just in a few minutes, which is awesome. So very, very easy to use, great for the beginner vapor. My second pro today is that the battery life is excellent. I get about 2 days on this device without having to charge it, and when I do have to charge it, it only takes about 45 minutes to an hour, so that is excellent in my opinion. It definitely lasts the long drive test, not only with the combination of the kind of low kind of power consumption, but also the 4 milliliter tank as well. You kind of sip through juice on a long drive, and that is definitely okay in my book. My third pro today is you get lots of clouds for such a small little device device like this thing here. And for something of this size to produce as much vapor as it does, it really does impress me. I mean, a lot of vapors nowadays want that kind of cloud. They want some sort of physical representation of them vaping, and that's exactly what you get with the Motiv pod system. It definitely produces a very good amount of vapor production. No matter what juice you're using, you're going to get some at least halfway decent vapor production out of this little guy here. All right, guys, so moving on to some cons. My first con is that it can be difficult to put the pod back in. Now, I know it seems silly, I know it seems trivial and stupid and all that stuff, but even for me as a seasoned veteran vapor, I took this device out of the box, filled it up with juice, and when I went to put the pod back in, I was having trouble actually fitting it in there. And even now, I'm trying, to line it up, and it just doesn't want to go. Okay, so there you go. I got it back in. It only took, a few seconds, but I'm looking at this from a beginner's vapor's point of view. They want something that is incredibly easy, completely foolproof. I feel like a lot of current smoker / transitioning vapors are kind of on a hair trigger, and if the first thing goes wrong with a device, they give up on it and throw it away and just go back to smoking. So you kind of have to baby them and kind of coddle them a little bit, and stroke their ego a little bit when it comes to vaping devices and liquids and all that stuff. You have to make sure they're completely comfortable with something. And I feel like no matter how many times I try to demonstrate putting the pod back in, it will be a little bit difficult to the beginner user. My second con today is that this device, for me personally, is not good either mouth to lung or direct to lung. So this is very, very much personal. Obviously, there's a million different styles of vaping. A lot of you out there might like a looser mouth to lung draw or a tighter direct to lung draw. So if you're that type of vapor, this con does not apply to you. But me personally, I like a very tight draw, very restricted mouth to lung inhale, or I like a very airy direct to lung inhale. And this device doesn't give you either of those satisfactions there. I'm actually going to demonstrate what I like to do right now. I put my finger over one of the air holes if I want to mouth to lung this thing. So let's go ahead and take a pull off of it. I'll show you guys what I mean. And yeah, it's not really great for a mouth to lung, even with one of the air holes closed off. If you're a very much airy mouth to lunger, then yeah, this thing is going to be great for you. But for me personally, it's a little bit too warm. The power that this battery gives off is a little bit too much for the coil, in my opinion, as far as a mouth to lung draw, and it's not quite enough for a direct to lung draw. So I'm kind of in a predicament with this sort of device here, just because it's not really aligned with my type of vaping. But this may not apply to you guys out there. My third con today has to do with the flavor, and this is the one that really kills it for me, because when I was trying to mouth to lung inhale on this device, it was just fine. About a 1 to 2 second inhale, you're not going to have a problem whatsoever. But when you try to direct to lung it, that's when problems start arising, where you do a 3 to 5 second inhale. After that, you get a pretty plasticky kind of flavor, and that just really doesn't sit well with me personally, because I'm not sure exactly why it's happening. I mean, there is a metal kind of center column around the coil itself, but at the bottom and the sides and everything else is plastic as far as the pod is concerned. So I don't know if it's heating up the plastic or anything like that, or it could be also a reaction to the juice that I'm using. And we're talking about plastic tank here, guys. So that means we are in the realm of tank crackers. So be careful with cinnamon flavors, with banana flavors, with very high citrus flavors and things like that with this device here, because I haven't experienced it firsthand yet, but plastic means tank cracking liquids can affect it. So there's that. Just be pre-warned. But yeah, the flavor that I get after 3 to 5 second inhale isn't the best. It's very plasticky, and I just really can't stand it. My fourth con today is more of a nitpicky complaint than a con. It really has nothing to do with the overall function of the device, or doesn't affect its performance whatsoever. But for me, it's just something that bugs me, and that's that the LED is really tiny, and it's way too small in my opinion. First of all, I like to hold this device like this, and I kind of cover that LED up anyways, so it kind of is pointless, and I have to actually flip it over and check my battery status once in a while. I would have liked to have seen Wismec maybe include it in a translucent button with an LED behind it. I feel like that would have made things a lot easier for me personally when I'm using this device, or maybe inside the little tank here shining up through the bottom or something like that. But yeah, the repositioning of that little light would make a big difference for me as far as the aesthetics of this device. And my fifth and final con about this device is more of a general observation than a con. It's just for the simple fact that it's kind of pointless, if you think about it, to have a proprietary pod system if there's really nothing different about it than the original Motiv, which had a glass tank and a replaceable coil. So yeah, I just don't understand really the necessity for having a pod system. Maybe they were trying to capitalize on the craze of everyone else doing pod systems or starter kits or all-in-one devices, but yeah, it just seems to me like they kind of dipped down the quality of the original Motiv. They sleeked it up a little bit, makes it look a little bit nicer now with the overall design. But yeah, I just really wish they kind of would have stuck with their original coils and everything else that were included with the original Motiv. I really didn't find too many faults in that particular device. I really don't understand why they had to come out with something like this here with cheap plastic tanks on it that just pop out. But maybe it's just me. I don't know. I'm not the mod designers. I'm not the marketing specialist or anything like that. So perhaps there is a huge market for these things and I'm just left out. So at the end of the day, would I go out of my way to purchase one of these things if I didn't get this one for review? And my answer would be no. This thing definitely does not line up with my particular style of vaping, and even looking at it from a starter kit point of view, it's really not for me. For those of you out there that want a slightly tighter direct-to-lung draw or a slightly looser mouth-to-lung draw, then yeah, you're probably going to go nuts over this thing. But overall, I'm just really not too crazy about it. I really like the original Motiv a little bit more than this device here. I do like the aesthetics of it. The look and feel is great. I mean, it's got that nice little ovalness to it, and it feels great in the hand, but I don't know. It just really doesn't line up with my style of vaping, and yeah. I would recommend this to anyone that's just getting into vaping. Brand new, you know, first mod ever. Take a look at it. You know, it might be worth looking into as far as a starter kit is concerned. It's cheap enough, and even if it's kind of a stepping stone or something like that, maybe even if you're moving up from a little tiny stick battery, you know, one of those gas station e-cigs or something like that, then this might be something to look out for you guys out there. But other than that, I'm going to say no to this one for me personally. So with that, I will provide you guys with links down there in the description below if you want to pick one of these up for yourself. So anyways, guys, that about does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe for more videos just like this. Don't forget you can hit that notification bell right next to the subscribe button if you want to be alerted whenever I upload videos. Also, make sure you leave me some comments in the box below. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this particular device. Don't forget to check out the advocacy and my social media links in the box below. You can also pick up my brand new t-shirts down there as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and as always, vape on!